My guest today is Rich Robinson, visionary tech entrepreneur with 20 years of experience building tech businesses in Web 1, Web 2, Web 3.
I helped EVERNOTE come into China.
Currently, he's entrepreneur in residence for Animoca Brands.
I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. I'm like, buddy, talk to me. How's it going? I want to go home, mommy.
He supports entrepreneurs building new generation of blockchain games and metaverses.
Now it's the internet of ownership built on blockchain. You can own digital assets, and that is extraordinary.
We're going to talk about his journey.
I rode a bicycle to Africa in 1996.
We're going to talk about Web 3.
I'm trying to tell people, take that blue pill, go back to bullshit Web 2, or take that red pill and come with us to Web 3 land.
Rich, welcome.
Give it up for Anatoly Spector, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care if you're driving, you're on the toilet, it's really weird, you're in like a public restroom, just start clapping. Like, this is amazing what you're doing. And plus his name sounds like it's from like a spy novel.
Bond movie.
Yeah, Anatoly Spector. not his real name, totally not his real name, yeah.
That's the first one, we're not going to cut it out. You're at the forefront of Web 1 to Web 2, which is like social media, everything owned by big corporations, issue with privacy, to Web 3 now, where we're owning our information to some degree. Tell me about transitions between them. What are some of the biggest surprises that you had with those transitions?
Fantastic question. So maybe I can frame the entirety of those three first and then start to peel it away. So, we live in a shareholder society. There are shareholders, there's producers, there's consumers. In Web 1, you could mainly just consume, like you said. Let's call 1990 to 2005, 15 years. You're just basically reading. Web 2, now Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, now you can write video and audio and text. So now you're also producing as well too. Except what happened there was everybody said, we're going to remain the shareholder and you can be the consumer, but you're also now the producer and you pretty much get nothing and like it. 99.99% of the stuff produced doesn't really get compensated. And even the other people who are at that 0.01% don't get compensated properly. And the rise of Web 3. Web 3, another 15 years later, let's call Web 2 05 to 2020. Now it's the internet of ownership, the tokenized version of the internet built on blockchain. So now you can own digital assets, and that is extraordinary. That is a game changer for the multiverse. So now you can be a consumer, sure. You can be a producer also, but you're also a shareholder. So that kind of triumvirate, you're all three, or you're any one of the three.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. Web 1 was kind of a little idealistic. Information wants to be free, right?
Yeah.
Web 2 was, let's look at it right now. There's 6 companies that kind of control everything.
Yes.
You know who they are, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, right? So there's Lord Zuckerberg, and there's the House of Google, and there's the Order of Microsoft. And it's like we are vassals. We are in a fiefdom. Way back hundreds of years ago, there was a lord, and the lord had his castle, and he had his soldiers, and then we're in the land, toiling in the land. Rides up on his horses. How's it going today, peasant? Oh, very good, sire. Very good, sire. We have 500 kilos of sweet potatoes. All right, you can keep 30 kilos, and I'll take the rest. And, I won't do anything horrible to your daughters today. Thank you, sire. Thank you for letting us live here. That's what we live in Web 2. Yeah. All of our time, treasure, and data goes to these companies, and you get nothing and like it. And it's redonkulous. It's absolute. We're like in the Matrix, and we don't know that we're actually in bondage. And I'm trying to tell people, take that blue pill, go back to bullshit Web 2, or take that red pill and come with us to Web 3 land.
Let's talk about one aspect that you're an expert in, which is blockchain gaming. So for me, I don't play games, but I hear a lot that blockchain revolutionizes how people play gaming. So for people like me who are completely ignorant to this, how does this transition look like, and why is it so important?
So gaming is the tip of the spear. The biggest community on planet Earth, 3.5 billion people So almost 45% of the entire global population are gamers. Most of them are in Asia, 52% in Asia. They're very, very comfortable with virtual currency. They've used coins and, Robux and you name it, whatever else.
Yeah.
And a lot of them happen to be also crypto aficionados as well too. So let's frame gaming. Music industry, probably $40, $50 billion a year. Yeah. That's a nice neighborhood, right? TV, movies, 100 bill a year. So let's round it up, 150 billion a year for what most people would consider entertainment. Gaming's 250. Gaming very likely will get to somewhere close to 0.5% of the total GDP with the rise of Web3. Because what happens now is people buy virtual items. My kids will buy a sword, a hat for their avatar, a spaceship, whatever, right? They don't own it though. They don't own it. The Lord owns it. You're just renting it. How do you know whether you own it is really whether you can actually create a marketplace around that. And once you create a true marketplace, people want to do that. With World of Warcraft, they had gray secondary marketplaces for wood and for gold, and but it wasn't officially recognized. And once people actually can own digital assets, people are like, I don't get Web3. It's weird. No, Web2 is weird. Web3 is like the real world. If I take paper money out of my pocket, government fiat issued money, that's a token, right?
Yep.
But a non-fungible token, what is that? This coffee cup. When you guys leave my home today, I hope you don't take this coffee cup because it's mine. I own it, right? That chair, it's mine. Oh, but these mics, those are yours, right? Your phone, that's your NFT. Like an NFT really is just a deed, D-E-E-D, just like a deed of ownership. I met the lead author for the NFT at NFT NYC earlier this year. We had dinner together, and he said, it's a non-fungible token, parentheses, NFT, or deed. And he's like, people will probably call it a digital deed because non-fungible token is clunky and NFT is weird, but everybody says NFT. Yeah. All an NFT is a deed of ownership. But now you can actually own it. It's on the blockchain. And think of blockchain as this. There's data that comes together into a block, and there's a mechanism, like an agreement between a group of people around the world that this block is actually true. And then you connect the blocks together, and there's another mechanism to say like this block is connected to this block is connected to this block. And that's copied on all the computers all around the world that use that blockchain. And it's a way of confirming what you own. Right now, if you own something in a bank, oh, where's my money in the bank? I have a certificate of deposit. I have some other instruments. I have savings. I have current. Oh, that's on their database. Now there's a database that's in the public. Everybody can see it. Yeah. And only a few people can write on it, but pretty much everybody can read it. So it's a beautiful mechanism to make these digital assets that were before really difficult to turn into true ownership into something that can be owned. And that is going to change everything.
Beautiful. I'm glad that we set a stage to my next question, which is, if you look 10 years ahead, how do you think that would impact us? Whatever the technology is growing with AI, with Web3, with virtual reality, how do you think it will impact us as humans?
So we have 3-4 days left in 2023. I think this is a pretty seminal year because this is really the year that we tasted AI in a big way. I mean, blockchain, AI and blockchain and even virtual reality have been around for a while.
Yes.
But I think this year with ChatGPT and with Midjourney, where it really works. Holy shit, does it work? Wow. Like, it's like I have an extra team, not just an extra team member. Yep. And it's like, whoa, like where did that come from? And first of all of those things are going to come together. Blockchain is a terrific counterweight to AI in that AI can create deep fakes. How do you know the provenance? How do you know, is this real or not? then you can use blockchain to be able to verify actually, there'll be different, sort of shards of it, different teams, like probably the Republicans in the US, team red will say, oh, this is true, but team blue will say this is true. But there's going to be some way to kind of counterbalance that. And then also, this is the year that Apple Vision launched. And I think it's quite extraordinary, and it's going to change things. So, it's now 15 years after the iPhone launched, roughly. And 15 years ago, I remember when the iPhone launched, and, 2007, 2008, like, it was different. Pre-smartphone and, social media wasn't really weaponized yet. The world wasn't that different, though. It wasn't really that different. Like 15 years ago, it was different, but like you could bring people ahead from there, and it would be like, okay, I get it. I'm ramped up pretty quickly. Yeah. You said 10 years from now. I want to say 15 years from now. I want to use that that sort of pendulum from like that sort of base of like 15 years ago to 15 years from now. 15 years from now, we don't recognize it. We can only think linearly. We can't think exponentially. Yes. And we are now on an exponential track because blockchain works with AI, works with AR, VR, and it is going to be unrecognizable. I really do believe that. 2038, it's going to be extraordinarily different from now. And of course, some things will be the same, but it'll be very, very, very different. And there's going to be a seismic societal shift with AI. So my grandmother was born in 1899 in Ireland. And at that time, 85% of the world, of the entire population of planet Earth was in agriculture. Yep. By the time she died in 1993, 5% of the world was in agriculture. She lived 93 years. So she lived a few generations. She did well. And if you told her parents, hey, she's going to grow up and be a newscaster, and they're like, what? On television? Television? What's television? Or she's going to be working as a mechanic in a car garage. Well, what's a car, right? Mm-hmm. Or she's going to be doing things with, the internet. With the internet, what's a computer, right? It was not really recognizable, but it took a few generations. But now I think we're going to see that same almost 100-year change in less than one generation, in 15 years. It is going to be so rapid. There'll be such a seismic societal shift that it'll be terrific and terrible all at once. Yeah. Hundreds of millions, maybe billions of jobs will be gone, just gone. Truck drivers doesn't make any sense anymore. Baristas doesn't make any sense anymore. And it's not just blue collar workers. It's, also software developers, right? Legal assistants, right? But my sister is a NICU nurse, neonatal intensive care unit. So kids that are born prematurely, 4 to 8 weeks prematurely. And she spends probably 80% of her time doing some other administrative bullshit. She's on her feet running around all the time. But if there could be AI and also robotics, we haven't really talked about robotics much, then she could probably spend 10, 15% of her time, maybe 20% of her time doing the other bullshit. But now she can work with more kids, and she can spend more time maybe holding those kids to her chest and having them feel her heartbeat, be more human, do things that robots and AI and blockchain and you name it can't do. So I think there's also a beauty in it as well too. Let's put it this way. I don't think anybody is lamenting that we don't work in the fields anymore. Everybody's, we feed more people with, fewer people doing farming, right? So we can be freed from a lot of these jobs. The problem is it's just reskilling, upskilling, and all of the changes in society along the way. And it's going to be really, really rapid.
And also I believe, at least, I might be wrong, but we're losing something in the process of this automation.
Of course.
If you look at the farming, that's a great example, because with the
GMO.
Yeah, it came all the GMO. So finding the good products is almost impossible now, even though we're not working in a farm. So that shift somehow went sideways. And I don't know if that's related to mechanization. Probably does, because it was easier for you to crop then you're like, I need more.
But is there a future where people are doing urban farming and it's more sustainable and it's like something you become a gentleman farmer because now you have more time and you want to spend time, kind of curating these artisanal, organic crops? Maybe, right?
Yeah.
I think, how can we just lean into being more human, more connection, more return to nature? Then maybe it will ultimately be good if we can survive past the tumultuous part.
For me, that's an interesting part, like how as humans we take those technologies and we not necessarily use them in a proper way. Let's say mobile phone, a great technology, and it connects everybody.
I'm sorry. What did you say? I was just. Are you? Oh, are we on a podcast? I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just the most distracting, horrible thing in the world.
We probably now has more free time than ever already, but we are not, like, we're losing the baseline of what is important, like connecting with each other, like doing this. Nobody talks about anything now. This conversation is rare. People need to go to YouTube to watch two people talk on deep conversations. How fucked up is that?
It is fucked up, but it's beautiful too, though, because you see people like your good self or Lex Friedman or, Tim Ferriss, who are like, let's talk for 90 to 300 minutes even, right? Yeah. And people want to listen. Like, people do want to listen and they want that connection. So it's showing that kind of superficiality of like TV talk show or radio is like, something that people are rebelling against.
Yeah. I talk to people, I'm from Canada, so I talk to people that I know, and they say, I don't have a lot of friends. Like, this is not, I don't have anybody to talk to. And to me, that's where things are going, at least in my mind. Even with the gaming, as soon as you add a monetary reward to gaming, more and more people go into gaming, and they are getting in those worlds which are beautiful, but they're forgetting to get out of those worlds. So there's a fear that everybody's going to live in a virtual world. Maybe I'm completely missing it.
Possibly. I mean, we already do. Like, it's already, like, the future is here. It's unevenly distributed. In Asia, people spend 9 hours online a day, and it's just, we're already in the virtual world.
Yes.
It may not be this immersive Ready Player One, VR, but we're already there.
Yeah.
And, my boys really love gaming, and it's something where, like, I grew up playing baseball in the States. Get out there, get in the sun, run around. Baseball is not a sport where you get that much exercise. You're mostly like standing around, to be honest. You have a few bursts of running. You don't really move that much. But there's camaraderie, and there's, sportsmanship, and there's strategy, and there's, you're using your mind, reflexes, right? I would contend when my boys are playing some of the games that they play, there's, they're not moving. Sure, we make sure that we incorporate movement outside of that, but the strategy is next level, and the camaraderie is tight, and the sort of reflexes and the, deep thinking and the, coordination. Like, it's actually, if you really look at it, there really is, something positive there.
For sure.
Just don't go too deep, right? And make sure you have those human connections. I'm 56 now. The biggest killer of people my age, what do you think it is?
Depression?
Well, I think it might be related. Some people would say, smoking or drinking or sedentary lifestyle or being overweight or whatever. It's actually isolation. And specifically men, men will move around, and then they, with their family, maybe to take another job, and they don't really put down any roots. Maybe they're traveling a lot and they have their colleagues, but they don't really know people, and then they retire maybe, and then they're just kind of like adrift.
Exactly.
They're totally adrift. And, it's not just something for older men, but it actually really is a much bigger problem, than before people started to be a lot more mobile and moving around, right? So it's the indicator of how healthy you're going to be at 80. One of the best indicators is how close-knit are your social connections when you're 50.
Yeah.
That's actually a better indicator than any other sort of, biomarker.
Interesting.
It's pretty fascinating. And if you look at that Harvard study, they have the fourth person heading that up now. It's been going for 90 plus years. In the 1920s or 1930s, they asked people, what's going to determine your happiness? Do you know this study, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and they're, power, status, money, and it's relationships. It's like, it's not just some sort of like, fuzzy, qualitative thing. It's like quantitatively so, like people with the best relationships with people. And that's what we're here for anyway. It really is.
Sure.
So let's hope that AI allows us to be closer and to be commute less and to do things, do fewer things that we don't want to do and really, hopefully connect more with people.
Beautiful. I want to talk about some ethical and moral questions about Web3. One of the important ones for me is misinformation. As I'm the one who gives people certain information, I'm very into making sure the information is good quality.
Sure.
But currently we're already facing misinformation from everywhere you go. Like every single story will have hundreds of different takes on it and nobody knows the truth. If we talk about Web3, if I'm owning the information, it will be very hard to take it out. So I think that might be an issue where misinformation can be spread more easily in Web3.
Every time that there is a new technology, then it can be used for, the technology is neutral. How is it going to be used is really up to the people that own the channel typically. And for misinformation, I mean, first of all, it's not that we're in a post-truth society. It's just that sometimes, there are some things that, okay, if we look at it from this lens, then it's true. Yeah. Sometimes some things are not necessarily provable, and sometimes some things are, a little bit more subjective, right? So I think there are going to be these, like I said, these factions that kind of grow out, and they say, we're going to have our kind of version of the truth backed by, our lens in a way. But the bigger picture is that we are not thinking machines that feel. We are feeling machines who think sometimes. Yeah. We're very tribal. We're very low resolution. We don't want to put that much time into really thinking about things. The whole thing about democracy is that you need to be able to hold two competing thoughts in your head at the same time. Yeah. Oh my God, how freaking exhausting is that? No way. I'm team blue. I'm team red. No matter what team blue says, then yes. No matter what team red says, yes. And it's just so much easier, and it really feeds into our core nature. I rode a bicycle through Africa in 1996. Yeah. And the first week on the road, I didn't read the map well, and I was about to do a really big climb right before sunset. And I was like, oh no, there's no way I'm getting to the top of that and all the way down. It'll be hours after dark. I have to stop here. Where do I go? What do I do? And I met these Maasai warriors on the side of the road. These guys are close to 2 meters tall. They have these robes wrapped around. They have big looping earlobes. They have giant steel spears. They have like red clay in their hair. And the only thing you could know that you were in present day is they have old car tires, and they're shaped like kind of like almost like a U. Yeah. And they have them under their feet, and they wear them like flip-flops. Okay. It's pretty fascinating. I bought a pair. I still have it at my mom's house, but they ripped up my feet because it takes so long they don't ever break in. You have to break your feet in. But anyway, I learned some Swahili, and I said to these guys, hey, can I come and stay with you? And they were like, sure, let's, they didn't say sure. They were like, they understood I had the Swahili phrase book, and they took me to their village. Yeah. And for sure, it took me an hour to push my bike through like rivers and other stuff to get there, which was really tough to push a bike that's loaded. That's another story. I probably should have just camped on the side of the road there. But, there was not a tourist place, right? I was for sure the only foreigner that ever stayed there. And they had these acacia trees, these big thorn bushes. And the thorns are as long as your middle finger. They're just incredibly sharp and long. And they had just all these branches there. They were probably 2 meters high and about 1 meter thick, encircling the whole village. And one guy whistled, and it was like beautiful starry night. There was a big acacia tree there and they moved some of the bushes, and we go in, and there's like 12 huts in a circle inside the circle of the branches. And then inside that, there's another corral, like a wooden corral with cattle inside of that. So it was branches, huts, and the corral, and all the cows. And it was fascinating. And I set up my tent. And it was the first time that I had seen a satellite. All the satellites mostly rotate around the equator. So they're very bright and they're moving really quickly. And I was like, UFO? UFO? Like, they didn't speak any English. Like, unidentified flying object was 3 words that they knew. They were just looking at my tent poles while I was setting it up. And I realized, like, wow, like once I was camping inside that, I felt really safe because of all the branches. Then I was inside the huts. I was between the corral and the huts. And this was probably how we lived 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 years ago, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And if you did something wrong, if you messed up and you got on the wrong side of that tribe, then okay, outside. You're outside the branches. Like, you don't want to do something where you're kind of like pushing yourself, outside of this group. You want to stay attached to the group no matter what.
Yeah.
And you could survive a day, a week, maybe a year, but a jackal or a hyena or a lion's going to get you and you're done, right? Yeah. So it's like all the people that were like, screw you, I'm out of here. They're all gone, right? They don't have kids. They're all like literally like we evolved to stay within these sort of tribal units, these clans, right? The Dunbar number, 152 people, I think. That's like the average number of people that somebody would know in their lifetime. Yeah. It was their family and their extended family and their clan, and then we'll kind of break off, right? So if you have a startup after 150 people, then it's difficult to understand who everybody else is and keep track of people. Like we're not really wired that way, right? So my point is, I don't know if it's so much about, AI or blockchain, with misinformation. It's much more about us, not even caring and just, like that brave new world of like, we just double talk and we don't have to be tricked by anybody. We want to trick ourselves, right? And I think that's a endemic part of humanity. And I have to hope maybe it's the other way around. Maybe we can actually use it as a way to make ourselves more enlightened and better informed and create these sort of DAOs and virtual tribes where we're doing things that are, in our best interest.
Yeah, at least we have more options, I guess. We can create more options to have our tribe. And then maybe this tribe will focus and not have a lot of misinformation, or at least have some certain values and standards that will apply to you, and then you can stay within them and feel more connected. Awesome.
Yeah, let's challenge somebody out there listening to start that.
Yeah. Please do. Put in the comments if you start, and we'll send you a smile. We're always trying to answer certain questions. What happens after we die? Is it a simulation? What's the purpose of life? How do you think those technologies that are evolving, will they help us to understand it better, or this is a lost cause for us? We just keep on asking the same questions and nothing happens.
You just had Rinpoche, Shyalpa Rinpoche, His Eminence, on here, and I'm helping him in a small way. He's building this universal peace sanctuary in Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddhism, and I'm helping to build a peace metaverse around that. And it's fascinating to me. You talk about simulation and the Matrix, and Matrix has a lot of like Gnostic, Christian, but also very much Buddhist concepts there, right? And it's fascinating to me that Buddhism's 2,600 years old, but from the get-go, they were like, it's all vibrations. Everything's a vibration, right?
Yeah.
This chair, this microphone, my hat, our bodies, it's mostly air.
Yeah.
It's like ones and zeros, just like in the Matrix. But we've, convinced ourselves that this is real.
Yeah.
And we really do live in a simulation. It's absolutely, it may not be this kind of computer simulation, but everything that we live in is really just how we perceive it. Yeah. And I heard this podcast on Tim Ferriss. It blew my mind recently that the space-time continuum, the whole idea, around physics with Einstein, doesn't exist. Like, space and time conclusively, scientifically debunked, do not exist.
Interesting.
Space and time do not fucking exist. And like, I was just like, what? When did that happen? How come I never got that kind of, email, right? What exists? The only thing that exists, consciousness. Consciousness exists. And then slots right back into Buddhism that, hey, we just get reincarnated. We come in and just like, whoop, let's put on these sort of goggles, all these senses, and we're just going to, sense life, but we're going to sense this whole, fabricated reality like it literally does not exist.
Oh, wow.
And if we're only sensing things through our, consciousness, then, I think, I grew up Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school in Boston. Irish Catholic was like a 12-step program to cure me of Catholicism, right? All boy Jesuit school. And, that old thing like, hey, Father, can God create a rock that's so big that he can't pick it up? And like, get out of this classroom, right?
Yeah.
But now Buddhism, I look at myself living here in Ubud. If you've seen Goodwill Hunting or The Town or, The Departed, where I grew up in Boston, like back in the dirty waters of the shitty of Boston back in the 80s, right? Like, what are you, yoga and meditation? Are you gay? Right? Like that's what people would say, but like, what's the matter with you? Right? And now I've just live in this yoga, meditation, vegan Disneyland that is Ubud. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And my wife is a tropical bird that pulled me in here and raised a family here. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And my point there is that if there's anything that I've really become connected to, it's really this kind of like Buddhist philosophy. And I've also kind of incorporated that into how I do business as well too. So is there an afterlife? Is there the whole idea of Buddhism is that we can't know. Like there is no self. All is one. And if we're thinking that we're some sort of discrete unit and there is some sort of, kind of like vessel around us, it's not for us to actually know, right?
For sure.
So I think Buddhism affected Stoicism, and Stoicism is the philosophy that I really, really love. And it talks about how nothing's in your control. Like my wife's not in my control. My kids aren't in my control. My employees aren't in my control. The weather, the markets, COVID, you name it. Other people driving on the road, nothing's in your control except two things. And those two things are your action and your reaction.
Yeah.
So you are 1,000% in control of that, and 0. You can influence other things, but you can't control it. And if you think you're controlling it for a while, then it's gonna come back and bite you. So therefore, if you know that those are the two things that you only control, then you can just, no matter what happens to you, oh, wait a second. Nobody told me growing up in Boston that I have a choice. When I grew up in Boston, there's a stimulus, there's an emotion, and there's a response. Otherwise, you're weak, right?
Yeah.
I went to high school like over near like Goodwill Hunting. Is that a challenge? Fuck you. Let's go, right? And like now what I've realized through meditation and through learning more, and I'm a very much early days in Buddhism and even Stoicism, is that there's stimulus, there's emotion, and you can't control that emotion. That emotion is like hardwired. You get the lizard brain, monkey brain, and the two frontal lobes. All of that emotion is literally baked into it like firmware, like an ATM. Like it's like the hardware and software is inseparable. Yep. So you can't control your emotions. Your emotions are going to happen. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel anxiety, right? You're going to feel fear. Anger is really a public face of fear most of the time. So there's a stimulus, you feel the emotion, then there's a space, and then there's a choice. I never noticed that before. And then, my response is nothing, or my response is kind of humor. Like, oh, look at that. I'm going to actually feel that somebody vibrated the air with their throat, and I'm going to feel this way. Yeah. And then I'm going to make it much worse by acting on it. Oh my God, it really is all just a joke. No way, right? So I've really learned about that. It's like all that matters is really right now. Yeah. Afterlife, everything else, if you really do believe in that, then the only thing that you can control is what you're doing right now. I'm sorry, no, now. Oh, wait a second. Now. Okay, I got it right the third time, right? So I can control my reaction, and then I can control my action. And then just do that.
A lot of my listeners are from the United States, so they will be asking the question that I'm going to ask you, because you built countless amount of different businesses. And in business, it's always, okay, we need to project in future. We need to take risks. We need to think ahead. And this doesn't go very well with like, I'm living now now, because now I have to think
It
about the
actually
future.
does. It actually does,
Okay,
believe
tell
it or
me
not.
about
It
it.
does, right? Because the thing is, you cannot control the outcome. You think you want to control the outcome, or you have an intended outcome. But how do you do that? You can plan. Of course you should plan. Of course you should look ahead, right? You should look back too. You shouldn't stare back. And you shouldn't be looking so far ahead that you can't actually see where you are right now. But you have to control the now. That's the only thing that you have. So if you're like, one thing I love Scaling Up. It's a book by Vern Harnish.
Great book.
And I don't want to go into the details there, but you create a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, 10, 20 years in the future. You take a 3-5 year plan, and then you make a 1 year, 1-page strategic plan. And you extrapolate all the way backwards from that. If I want to be this in 10 years, then what does 3 to 5 years look like? Because that has to have a thread. And then one year, I need to know 2024, how that's going to sew together to 2026, right? How's that going to sew together? And then you make a 1-page strategic plan, and then you have quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily goals. And every day, what do? Daily huddle. And the daily huddle, I did it at 8:08 a.m., and you do it for 12 minutes, and everybody aligns. Morning, afternoon as well too. This is what I've done since the last meeting. This is what I'm going to do before the next meeting. This is what I've learned, and this is where I'm stuck. And you're focused on that right now, right? And every step along the way, you get everybody rowing in the same direction. Every 90 days, you readjust and you make sure. So the thing is that you really can't control it. Like, let's put it this way. In a startup, are you kidding me? No, people say 80% of startups fail, 90%, it's 95 something percent. Most startups fail before people even start because they talk themselves out of it, right? And the road is littered with dead bodies. The most likely outcome is you're going to fail.
Yeah.
So you're going to freaking tell me that you're going to control the outcome? No, you're not. You're not going to. And even when shit's going great, then, the outcome is even more difficult to actually manage, right? Yeah. And so if you can't control the outcome, then you gotta control the now. You gotta really focus on the now. And I tell people, it's sleep, diet, nutrition, time with good people, journaling, time in nature. Like those are the things that refresh you and give you energy and give you the best chance to have the best reaction and action.
Yeah.
Because it's not about time, it's really about energy. You got to be able to manage your energy and manage it well, I believe. And you need to be able to really take care of yourself. I've seen so many entrepreneurs just literally destroy themselves. Yeah. I started the Beijing chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO. And EO was started by Vern Harnish, the guy who wrote Scaling Up. So he put his legacy first and then he started Scaling Up later. Why did he start EO? Because there was a group of about 5 guys and they all got together and they all had families and they all had businesses. And then one day there was just 4 guys because the guy took himself out of the game. He had kids and he just couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. He was just gone. And they were like, what? I didn't even see that coming. Didn't want to share it, didn't want to be weak and vulnerable. So Entrepreneurs Organization is started to enable people to talk about professional, to talk about family, but also the personal side too. And it's super powerful. So in the Beijing chapter, we had a really big standout, this great guy. And he built this great business and it was really working. And he's like, I'm going to land the plane. Bought a beautiful home, Vancouver, moved his family there. I'll be there in 2 weeks. Sila. In Chinese, dead, drops dead. Wow. He's in his 40s, he's gone. Yeah. He just destroyed his body along the way. Yeah. Put everything that he had into it. There's this old parable of this craftsman, multi-generational craftsman in China building vases, and they're trying to build the perfect vase. Generation after generation after generation, failing, not quite there. He's always the first one there, firing up the kiln. He's the last one there at night. He has the best other craftsmen joining him. One day he stays late and he thinks, what if I try this? And he kind of kneels into the kiln and he reaches to put the vase in a special spot. He falls in, gets consumed in the flames. Next morning, people show up. He's not there. Everything's cold. What's going on? He's always here early. The fire's always, look inside the kiln. It's perfect. It's perfect. He did it. But in doing so, he completely consumed himself. So I think if you got listeners who are like, that's bullshit, you got to work on the outcome. No. You have to work on yourself. And you have to work on improving yourself and improving your output just a little bit every day. And then the outcome will take care of itself. Because otherwise, how do you know when you can go to sleep? Like, I talked to Rinpoche about this peace sanctuary, and this amazing just Lama, Rinpoche, is building something that is so crazy. It's like tens of millions of dollars, and he doesn't have any money at all. And there's so many forces trying to make it not happen. And the first day I met him, I was like, how's it going? And he's like, yeah, not so well. But I slept great last night. Oh, that's beautiful. Of course it's not going well. It never goes well. Yeah. It's an absolute shit show. This sausage is delicious. The sausage factory is right there. Oh, let me go visit it. No. Don't go in the sausage factory. There's shit dripping from the ceiling. There's like a cow with a knife in his neck going, right? It's just like, it's a mess, right? No matter how awesome something is. Yeah. That's why I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and they're like, oh my God, like everything sucks. Everybody else is doing so great. I get the highlight reel on Instagram and LinkedIn and everywhere else. They're crushing it. No, they're all, how's it going? Oh, it's come on, it's going great. Up and to the right. No, come on, really. Tell me, how's it going? Well, I mean, the metrics could be a little better, right? I'm like, buddy, it's me. It's Rich. Talk to me. How's it going? I want to go home. Mommy, I want to go home. Tears and sweat and snot, right? It's just like, that's how everybody feels. Like, I helped EVERNOTE come into China. Yinchang BG, the big green elephant. Yeah. And Phil Libin is the running the show there, and he's an amazing guy. And they had just raised a big round of funding, $3 billion valuation. This is a number of years ago. They're not doing as great now, but back then it was a big deal. And I'm driving in Silicon Valley, and I see a big white building with an elephant on the side. And I was like, oh, I guess that must be the headquarters, right? Silicon Valley is like a horrible place. It's like strip malls, and like it doesn't feel like sexy at all. And I'm like, oh, it looks like a big warehouse. And I just pull into the parking lot. It was like 5 o'clock, and I was like, is Phil here? This is Rich from China. And he's like, yeah, oh, come on up. And I was like, hey, Phil, Rich, I see you. Like, you want to go to dinner? Sure. He's like, I was like, congratulations, you just raised money. And he's like, really though? Really? Are you kidding me? Congratulations, right? And I was like, I'm sorry. Yeah, all right. I'm sorry. Because you raise money at a $3 billion valuation. This is you before you raise money. You're on a treadmill, 8% incline, 12 kilometers an hour, 30 kilos in your backpack, right? Then you raise money at a $3 billion valuation. Beep, 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 beep. 15% incline, 20 kilometers an hour, 20 more kilos in your backpack, slap your ass, run! We're going to go back to our Sand Hill Road VC offices and eat some artisanal, chocolate. Just keep running, right? It's like every step along the way, it doesn't ever get easier. Yeah. It never gets easier. So you just have to be better. And if you have to be better, you have to work on your mindset, and you have to work on what can I control, and work on your output. And that's it. And then the outcome, it's not about like I'm unattached. You kind of have to be a little bit unattached to the outcome, but you have to be intentional and like reset it and like just be realistic about it. Otherwise, you lose your mind.
Yeah. There's beauty in the process itself. And that's what I learned from doing this podcast and from many things I now do enjoy. If you don't enjoy the process, it doesn't matter the result. If you do enjoy the process, it doesn't matter the result. So for me, just having a conversation is important. If cameras doesn't work and it doesn't go published, I already got enough value for me. So beautiful. It's okay. And I think if more and more people focus on just crafting and enjoying every step and every move they do in the process, then the result will take care of it.
And that's life. Yeah. Like he talked about, I went on this meditation retreat with him about Rigpa. Yeah. I'd never heard the term before, RIGPA. I'd been to Tony Robbins last month, 2 months ago, in the Kudos Arena in Sydney. Yeah. It was his last live event in Sydney before going virtual. And he talks about moving through life in a beautiful state. So if you choose to be as an entrepreneur, then the most likely outcome is that you are going to fail. Like, it's just statistically so. And by the way, along the way, you're going to earn less. You're going to work more. You're going to have a lot more stress. You're going to be a catch basin for all the bullshit that happens in the company. It all comes to you. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's going to be pretty rough. Yeah. And I see so many people getting attracted to it who are like, oh, I was like top of my class in high school and captain of the tennis team and Habitat for Humanity. And then I went to this great school, and then I, was a special scholar there. And then I went to grad school, and then I got a great job. Now I'm going to do a startup. And they're like, oh no. It's like all encompassing, magnificent failure. Everything is crumbling around them. And this is the first time maybe in their life that they're like, I can't hide and run. But it's like, it's actually part of the whole thing. And like the whole purpose there is like, how do you get better? You don't wish it was easier. How do you make yourself better? And you have to go back to these first principles of like yourself to make yourself better.
It's very similar to having kids, in my opinion.
Yes.
It's all about crushing your ego and finding out who you truly are and being that. Because anything else, if you're not being yourself, you're going to get crushed more and more and more and more. So the only thing you can do is be kind and compassionate and just go.
Indeed, right? I heard this thing from Dr. Peter Attia, who I'm a big fan of. I read his book Outlive, and he has two boys, and I have two boys. They're 20 and 18 now. But when they're younger and they're fighting over something and you're hungry and tired and stressed or whatever, somebody told him, just think right now that you're 80. And they said, okay, now you can come back and spend an hour with your boys back in that state. And like, wouldn't you be like, you would just be joyously observing. You wouldn't be getting angry at them. You'd be like weeping with joy, right? And like, that's a lot of what the Buddhist idea is that like, it's all a joke. It's all artifice. And like, we can tell ourselves what the story is at any moment. And Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL, he has that one post where it's like,
didn't get the new high-speed gear we wanted? Good. Didn't get promoted? Good. More time to get better. Oh, mission got canceled? Good. We can focus on another one. Didn't get funded? Didn't get the job you wanted? Got injured. Sprained my ankle. Got tapped out? Good. Got beat? Good. You learned. Unexpected problems? Good.
Every time that there is something going wrong, and by the way, if you're choosing to be an entrepreneur, you're choosing a shit show and you have to be a problem-solving machine all the time, and you have a choice. Oh, bullshit. This bullshit again. Oh, this is, who's winning with that? Nobody's winning with that. You just go, good, beautiful. What do we got? How do we put a system in place to, not have that happen again, but how do we solve this right now? And like that kind of attitude, I get to do this. I get to do this. This is beautiful. Oh, the boys are fighting, and just being like, you're feeling anger and fear and anxiety and all of these frustration, and just letting it wash over you and just go, I get to do this with the boys. I get to model to them how to be calm. I get to help them manage their own emotions and work out conflict between themselves, right? Doesn't mean that you're not going to crack. We're all human, but that's a beautiful thing that nobody ever taught me that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I never got that modeled by my parents, and like their parents never modeled it to them. And like, but it's like, it's time to model it now. And you kind of have to stop with you. Yeah. And the only way forward, I think, is meditation. Like if I don't meditate, then I don't have that reservoir to be able to override all of those, monkey and lizard brain responses.
How does your meditation routine look like?
I do transcendental meditation, TM, which is 20 minutes upon awakening. So I do something called empty fill. I pee when I wake up. I drink a glass of water, usually with some sort of electrolytes and salt. And then I do 20 minutes or 21 minutes. I give myself a minute to put on a white noise app that shuts off after 21 minutes. Yeah. No beeping. And I sit, I have a special meditation, pillow set up, lotus position, spine straight, hands loose. I put the back of my hands in the inner part of my thigh. I breathe deeply through my nose, have my eyes closed, and then I have my mantra. Transcendental meditation's mantra based.
Yeah.
I've done Vipassana, which is body scan. I've done the 10-day silent Vipassana meditation retreat, which I highly recommend. It's free, and then you just give a donation at the end. You do 105 hours of meditation in a 10-day span. No talking. Have you done it?
No. I'm actually planning to do this year.
Beautiful. No body language, no eye contact, no nothing. No reading, no writing, no phone, no computer, no book, no journal. And you wake up at 4 a.m., 2 hours of meditation, light vegetarian breakfast, 3 hours of meditation, light vegetarian lunch, 4 hours of meditation, a banana or an apple, hour and a half of meditation.
Wow.
And then rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And, Rinpoche said something is that your mind, if you really go into your mind, is like a baby in a battlefield. Like one of those World War I, movies of like in the trenches and like people fighting in France, and just think of like a baby crawling through that. It's like, that's what your mind is really like. And man, it took me 7 days of that, going just everywhere until I finally settled into it. But that got me really deeply interested in meditation.
Awesome. Are there any other routines? I know you like cold plunging. We talked about that. Anything else that helps you to get in that state apart from meditation to do?
Yeah. So I think the physical and the mental are all one, and you need to shock your system. And I use movement a lot when I'm working. So I have a tread pewter on my desk, and you can see my wife's tread pewter here. And like I make the commitment, like I have some things I don't want to do.
What is tread pewter? Sorry.
So you have a treadmill, and then you have a standing desk.
Okay.
So it's a treadmill computer. Yes.
All right.
And then I'm like, I am not getting off. Like I haven't eaten yet, and I'm going to do 15,000 steps, and I can't leave until, and that's about 2.5 hours until this project is done.
Wow.
And then I have this thing called Freedom app, and it blocks everything. Like I have no social media from Monday, 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. on Friday.
Beautiful.
Zero. It's Instagram, apps, websites, everything, right? I'm just totally, so I can be really, really focused. And so there's kind of like nowhere to hide. Yeah. And I get on that tread pewter and I do it first thing in the morning. People talk about having the frog, eating the frog. And like, that's how I eat my frog. And I kind of like, and I put on this binaural beats, BINAURAL beats on Spotify. So then I set the environment. I'm walking, it's early morning. I'm like, I'm doing this. But then also in the afternoon, like I take a nap, or I'll take a cold shower after the nap, or I have a trampoline, get in the trampoline and like move my body. Yeah. And like really like shake stuff up. I always exercise in the morning, but before I get on that, or maybe sometimes after I get on the tread pewter, but I find that in the morning is better. Yeah. And then, kind of those extreme, fasting, exercise, HIIT exercise, the cold, the heat, like those, like your body wants to go to those places. Like by taking your body to those places, what you're doing is you're kind of allowing your genes to express themselves in a different way. You're unlocking all of these like secret treasures, like in a video game, that are inside you. My dad and I are the same exact build. I weigh 90 kilos. I'm probably 15% body fat. I don't mean that as a flex. My dad at my age, he weighed 150 kilos and he was probably like, you
look at least 10 years younger.
60% body fat, right? But the thing is, we're at no flex at all. I only do it for, longevity, health span, lifespan. We're the same person more or less, but we expressed our genes in totally different ways. Yeah. And it's literally within your control to be able to do that, but you want to go to the extremes. It actually does really give so much benefit.
Wow. I'm going to ask you the last question I ask everybody here.
Sure.
How to live a happy and fulfilling life?
I've heard who you're with, where you are, what you do. Like it really does help. And I'm 3 for 3 right now. I've been 0 for 3 and 1 for 3 and 2 for 3 and 3 for 3 is way better.
Yeah.
I have an amazing wife. Our relationship gets better, like some kind of tropical teak. It just gets more solid every day. And that's a beautiful thing. And like, that's also something nobody ever told me is how ridiculously important that decision is, who you're actually with. She's my second current and final wife. And also we live here in Bali, of course, and it's magical, right? I tell people, Bali's, we've been here for 4 years now. And to be honest, it's not that great, except for the weather, the culture, the people, the expats, the best non-urban airport hub, the mountains, the volcanoes, the jungle, the rice fields, the beaches, the food, it's just, all right, the traffic stinks and prices, like prices are great. Everything's great, right? It's just like it sure does make life easier. And what you do, I think it really is important to make you feel like you have, some sort of like, satisfaction and meaning in your life. Yep. But the fact is that, all that stuff is still external, and it sure really does help, but it really is up to you to make that decision. Yeah. And I think that's something that's really changed in me over the last 5 to 10 years, is that I make this decision to live in a beautiful state, right? Like I know what it's like to live with like frustration and anger. Like my last relationship was not great, where at any time, like you could just like go off and you're just like walking on eggshells and you're just like ready to snap and like, right. And just like, there's so many bad things and you're just like in this fog and you're kind of had this like bile and poison in you because your amygdala is flaring all the time and it's miserable. And then I learned at the end of that relationship, too late, but it's up to me. There's no audience. There's no show. She goes to DEFCON 1. She goes to DEFCON 2, DEFCON 3, DEFCON 4, DEFCON 5. I don't have to go anywhere. She would go to DEFCON 3 over something that was a DEFCON 1. And then I would go to DEFCON 1 because what are you going to DEFCON 3 for? Now she's going to DEFCON 5 because how dare I go to DEFCON 1? And now I'm just like, there's just anger is almost totally unnecessary ever. It's only for danger, I think. I think anger for like somebody's in danger or you're in danger, then you need to use anger to be able to like shock them out of that or to save them. But other than that, wow, anger just poisons you. It's like you have hatred or anger or some sort of resentment, and it's like this in this cup, and you're like, I have like hatred, anger, resentment for them. Glug 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 glug. What are you doing? You can't. You feel shitty for hours, days after. I see people ruminating in that shit for years or decades even. And like, what are you doing? You gotta let it all go. You're creating all of this. So I think the happiness really has to come from inside. Of course, give yourself the best opportunity from the external, sure. Like change, just decide and just be like, no, enough shitty relationships with somebody in my family that's draining me. I'll stay in touch with them, but I'm going to really minimize that, right? Or, hey, I'm not going to move cities, but I'm going to eliminate my commute. I'm going to move closer, or I'm going to just work remotely, right? And who I'm with, I'm going to give it the best shot to really hit the reset button and try to make this relationship great. Or, it's time to move on, right? And, but really it's about that inner work. Yeah. And I think it has to start with meditation and journaling. So the last thing I'll say is journaling really helps me to, there's happiness and there's unhappiness. They're two different things. They're not the opposite. You can reduce your unhappiness, and that's really helpful. Yeah. Taking shit out of your life that makes you unhappy. And one of the things that made me unhappy was ruminating, just thinking about stuff, being in my head. And one of the best tools for that is journaling. So when I say empty fill, I pee, drink a glass of water, meditate for 20 minutes, and then I fill 2 pages every morning. I have a beautiful, juicy Japanese pen. I have a nice notebook that really sucks it up. And it's the only time I write. I rarely write.
Any particular format of your journaling?
And the journaling is FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. My son is not going to get into college. He's now at University of Hawaii, right? I have this weird spot on the side of my head. I'm getting it checked out next week, right? My, report that I'm supposed to submit, I'm stuck on how I should do it. Whatever is like making me worried or stressed or fearful, then it all goes in there. I just let it out of me. It's like diarrhea of my fingers, just blah, and it's beautiful. And I do the worst case scenario. I'm going to die alone under a thin blanket, weeping for my mom or whatever, right? Just the worst case scenario. And then you know what I do, Anatoly? Take that book, tie it up, put the pen inside, and I put it away.
Yeah.
Something comes in my head. I see you. I acknowledge you. Yep. You know what? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to feature you. Really? Yeah. You're going to be the main feature in the journal. Come back tomorrow morning. Come back tomorrow morning. Okay, good. Bye-bye. See you later. Yeah. I'm going to be featured. Yes. See you later. And that's like helped me to really reduce that unhappiness, a lot. Beautiful.
Wow. Lots for me to take in and try myself as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for your vulnerability and sharing all of this. I know it's not easy, and I think what you said is very important for entrepreneurs to hear for sure, and it will give a lot of people more courage.
Thanks for the opportunity, Anatoly Spector, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, boom.
Rich Robinson. And for you guys who are enjoying, please subscribe, comment, and like, and I'll see you next one. Bye-bye.